MCDC is an incredibly deep thinking man. I think it's obvious whenever you listen to him. Super meathead, but very deep thinker, and obviously a stud. But McDaniel and MCDC together would be must watch.
Just the sight of them two on the sideline would be the best.
Like McDaniel jumping on his back after a big touchdown and MCDC like going crazy. That would be. Oh, you could probably
Fireman's carry him. Fireman's carry him.
If you see my backpack, man, the guy used to be a head coach. This guy used to be a head coach.
That'd be incredible.
Dude, so he's in Detroit right now.
All right. Let's have some fun tonight. You heard the Pat McAfee segment. Now, we got a jam-packed show tonight, as you can see on the screen. We're going to cover the comments made by McAfee on the Lions OC job, pros and cons of Mike McDaniel's taking the job, Aidan Hutchinson's recent injury comments in an ESPN interview, and the NFL Coaching Carousel. Because there's a lot going on in the NFL right now and a lot going on in Detroit as they try to fill their holes. But getting into it, when Pat McAfee says something would be must-see TV, as he did earlier today, you can't just scroll past it. You got to stop. You got to rewind it. And you got to ask yourself one simple question. Would this actually work? Pat McAfee floated the idea that Mike McDaniel teaming up with Dan Campbell as the Lions offensive coordinator would be chaos in the best absolute way. And he might be onto something. And we got to talk about it, because if you're talking about personality, football IQ, culture, and just entertainment value, Dan Campbell and Mike McDaniel on the same sideline would break the internet. I mean, it probably would be must-see TV. And so we're going to start with the obvious. Campbell is the emotional engine of this franchise. Kneecaps, grit, accountability. This is a guy who leads with his chest and his heart. McDaniel, on the other hand, is a mad scientist. Okay? Motion, timing, misdirection. I mean, he very well might be Ben Johnson 2.0. I mean, he's a guy who sees the game of football like a chessboard, and he talks about it like a stand-up comic. And I've talked about in some of my other videos about the way his demeanor is. I mean, there's nobody that pays attention to NFL football and doesn't know who Mike McDaniels is. There's no way. I mean, he's had a number of quirky, weird takes. I mean, some of the films of him being just in this, some of the way that he's dressed. And I'm not talking about the sunglasses. I mean, the capri pants. I mean, he's just a quirky dude. And that's fine. I'm not, it's cool. But when you think about those two together, I mean, they're totally polar opposites. I mean, Campbell is nothing like McDaniels. Nothing. I mean, they couldn't be more different. But in reality and in football terms, they might be perfect complements. Because what does Dan Campbell do better than almost anybody else in the league? He sets the tone. He builds trust. Players already believe in him. He's created an environment where people feel empowered to be themselves and to buy into Detroit football. Now, this season was disappointing. I get it. But I can assure you that locker room, Dan Campbell has not lost any faith in that locker room. Not at all. And so Mike McDaniel, he thrives in environments where creativity isn't allowed, it's encouraged. And that's why I think McAfee is taking this so hard. Because it isn't just about play calling. It's about chemistry. He sees it. I mean, imagine the press conferences alone with those two. I mean, could you imagine? Campbell, a fiery, emotional locker room style message, and then McDaniel steps up to the podium with a deadpan breakdown that somehow makes you laugh and learn some new football stuff at the same time. I mean, that's not just football coverage. It's literally content gold. WWE type of stuff. But let's get past the entertainment part, because there's a football side that matters here. Obviously, you know, we all want to see Detroit win a championship, and that matters more than us getting a couple jokes or laughs on Sundays, whether they win or lose games. If Mike McDaniel were to ever land in Detroit as an offensive coordinator, it would signal something huge. And it would be that the Lions aren't afraid to evolve while staying true to who they are. Because this would be different for them. This would be a different pace. McDaniel's offenses are built on speed, putting defenders in impossible positions. He's known to maximize talent. He's good at manufacturing mismatches. He doesn't ask players to be people that they aren't. He builds the scheme around what they are, who they are. And think about Detroit's personnel. They have a physical offensive line that does need to be improved upon, but they have a physical offensive line nonetheless. They have versatile skill players. They've got a quarterback who thrives when he can play on rhythm and timing. Goff. I mean, you don't have to stretch very far to see that it could work. And here's the key part that people miss. Campbell doesn't need to control the offense. He needs to empower the right mind to run it. That's it. I mean, this is not a guy that's about ego. He's about results. If something helps this team win, then he's all in, even if it doesn't look traditional. I have no doubt in my mind that if they think that Mike McDaniel is the best guy for the job, then they're going to hire him. And I think that's why McAfee's comments resonate. This isn't Madden fantasy booking. This is a culture fit conversation. Play calling fit conversation. Mike McDaniel doesn't have to be the guy in Detroit. He can be the architect, and that's fine with everybody. Campbell would still be the leader, the voice, the closer, and McDaniel would be the chess player. That's dangerous. This could be dangerous. I mean, because from a league-wide perspective, other teams would hate this. I mean, you'd have one of the most emotionally unified locker rooms in football paired with one of the most creative offensive minds in the game. It's substance with style. Now, we got to step back because we got to address the realism. Is this likely to happen? Maybe not immediately. But is it possible? Yes. This is absolutely possible. Coaching carousels are weird. And we're going to be getting into that in the later segment of the show, but careers pivot fast. I mean, I think Andy Reid now is the longest tenured coach in the NFL. He's got like 7 or 8 seasons under his belt. I mean, that's insane. In college football, I feel like the window is even less for that. If you're not in a national championship the next year, they're talking about firing you, getting rid of you, which is so strange because the next guy they bring in, they're like, yeah, $10 million, 7 years. Guys haven't even proven themselves, and then they'll fire. Then they'll be talking about how are we going to get $40 million to get rid of him in 2 years when he doesn't do. I mean, it's just we're living in different times, people. McDaniel is the type of coach who could benefit from a situation where he doesn't have to be the CEO. And maybe that's why things went wrong in Miami. Maybe he's just better as the innovator. I mean, we saw that with Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia was a terrible head coach. He had no business being in that role. It went terrible in Detroit. He's thriving again as Ohio State's defensive coordinator. He's a great coordinator. He's been running defenses and schemes as a coordinator very well. But as a head coach, The guy sucks. At this point in time, though, Detroit isn't desperate. They're not. They can be selective. Now, I think that they should do something quickly, but they're not desperate. It's a very sought-after job. And that matters. This wouldn't be a panic move. This would be a statement if this is what they do. And it's a statement that says, we're not just building culture, we're chasing championships. We're not just tough, we're smart. And let's be honest, the NFL is a lot better when Detroit's interesting. It's better when historically bad teams, let's be honest, are good again. Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers. I mean, it's a benefit to everybody when you start seeing other teams that haven't won perennially get a spotlight. People want to see Detroit win. They want to see the Lions win a championship just as much as the homegrown fans do. And I think it's like McAfee said. I do think it would be must-watch football. And if Pat McAfee's imagination is even half right, then Detroit wouldn't be just winning games. They'd be stealing the spotlight while doing it too. I'm going to shift gears here for a minute to the recent remarks made by Aidan Hutchinson on ESPN. We're going to go ahead and play the clip now so you can see it, and then I'm going to speak to that.
Hutchinson all morning long had an incredible season, returning from that broken leg better than ever. Finished with a career-high 14.5 sacks, fourth in the league. Yesterday was named second-team All-Pro. Lions got off to a strong start, but then finished up 4-6 in their last 10. Tons of close losses and missed the playoffs, finishing with a record of 9-8. So just a couple of quick thoughts, if we could, Hutch, while we have you here on the season. So many expectations. If you'd put your finger on it, why didn't the season go the way you and your teammates hoped it would?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, it really felt in those critical games we were not playing complementary football in those moments, and that's really on all three phases. It was sometimes offense, defense, special teams. It was a collective thing where little parts were letting us down, and we were losing these close games. And we ended up 9-8, but it just wasn't enough to get us in. And that was it was unfortunate, but we're all looking forward to next year. And
so as you turn the page to next year, if there's one thing you could put your finger on and said, this is what we need to do better in order to get where we want to be in 2026, what's that thing?
To me, defensively, I think it's get healthy. It's get our secondary healthy, get all those guys back, and I really think we're gonna have a complete defense.
All right, we shall see. Again, the division is strong. We saw two of them.
Now, I want to frame this a little bit because I do think some of the way this was reacted to has been a little bit unfair, frankly. I don't know how many of you listen to 97.1 or Mike Valeni, but those guys over there tend to have I think they tend to be more harsh on former Wolverine players because Aidan Hutchinson has been a heck of a player for the Detroit Lions. I mean, he's been a tremendous player. And the fact that they won 9 games is not Aidan Hutchinson's fault. It's just not. And so they were ripping him up a bit about him blaming the failure of the season on injuries and his suit. They didn't like that, whatever. Guy wants to wear a suit, let him wear a suit. Who cares? I do think that there is some credibility, though, to the fact that they weren't healthy. And the downside of this is that we've had this conversation before. We've had it a couple seasons in a row now, actually. And Hutch didn't sugarcoat it. I mean, he didn't really give any other excuses. He called Detroit's season unfortunate and admitted that in critical games that the team didn't play complementary football. And I don't think it was a deflection. I think he was being honest. He didn't blame his teammates. He didn't blame the coaches. He wasn't making excuses. He was stating a fact that the margin for error in the NFL is very thin, and Every unit has to show up, and Detroit didn't always get that. In my opinion, it's a mature take from a guy whose personality on the field is anything but timid. But the reality is that Detroit's defense was ravaged by injuries in 2025. Guys like Kirby Joseph, Ennis Rakestraw, who was a draft pick in 2024. He got injured early on in the preseason 2025. He was going to be a starter. He did not get to. Marcus Davenport, Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch missed significant time. So that's not just a unit missing depth. That's a unit missing identity. And when your identity is built, as Detroit's has been, on physical front seven play and opportunistic defense, missing those guys isn't a small setback. It's a season changer. They're going to lose some games as a result of it. So Hutch's point wasn't saying, well, we weren't good enough. It was we weren't whole enough. And I get it. And when you aren't whole in the NFL, especially on defense, you lose close games you should win. And that's what happened in Detroit. This year, Hutchinson was coming off a brutal leg injury. And it was important in this segment that he specified the defense getting healthy, because he didn't say the offense getting healthy. He said the defense staying healthy, especially the secondary, because when your front seven is creating chaos, but the back end can't hold up consistently, that's where games are lost. That's critical. That's real. That's something every fan in Detroit has felt watching a close loss slip away because a guy was out or a unit wasn't at full strength. And if the Lions can keep the roster intact, not just their stars, but their complementary players, this franchise will not just be in another playoff race. They'll be a legitimate Super Bowl threat. All of the pieces are there. All of them. Now it's about execution. I think they pick up a couple holes in the offseason. Maybe they do something in the draft. But ultimately, it's about execution and staying on the field. And so I don't have a problem with what he said. He's not talking about X's and O's. He's talking about health, complementary football, and accountability. It's ownership, guys. And that's what this team needs, especially if they want to turn another 9-8 season into a championship run. So, and I think that's the truth. And you just all heard it straight from one of Detroit's best. All right, we're going to be moving on to the coaching carousel, because what a season it has been thus far in the NFL. Obviously, it's far from over. We still have some playoff games and a Super Bowl to get to. But the coaching carousel, wow. I mean, the offseason is straight up chaos with consequences. We're going to go ahead and play the clip from the Baltimore presser right after Harbaugh left. It's up on the screen.
Mike Tomlin stepped down at Pittsburgh.
He did? Is it official?
That's what I keep hearing. So, is he a candidate here?
Holy Mike, wouldn't that be awesome? Only if John takes the Pittsburgh job. Wow, wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know, that thing last week maybe disqualified him for my opening after our kicker missed a kick to let them advance. Good for Mike.
This year, we have seen some of the most iconic coaches of the last 2 decades out of their jobs, either stepping aside or suddenly in demand across the league. And that opens the door for a ton of drama and speculation. And so tonight, we're going to talk about some big names, their futures, and how all this movement could reshape the league for 2026 and beyond. And so I'm going to start with the biggest surprise, or maybe the slowest burning one, which is Mike Tomlin out in Pittsburgh. After 19 seasons leading the Steelers without ever having a losing record, Tomlin has opted to step down following the recent loss in the wild card. Mike Tomlin has been the consistent face of stability in Pittsburgh for years. He's a Super Bowl winner. This isn't your typical fired coach looking for a job situation. He's not even planning to coach in 2026, despite interest coming from teams looking for experienced leadership. And so what makes this fascinating is that he leaves with historic credibility. I mean, the guy never had a losing season, which in the NFL is tough to do. On top of that, he's only 53 years old. And that's not old at all by coaching standards. But the guy wants time away, possibly because of the media, possibly because he needs a break. Maybe he just wants to recharge. I don't know. But whatever the reason, he just wants time away. And so the wrinkle is that Pittsburgh still holds his rights because he resigned rather than was fired. I mean, you hear a lot of these guys like Harbaugh, which I'm going to get to in a minute, who were fired. Mike Tomlin was not fired. So if some ambitious franchise really wanted him back on a sideline in 2026, they'd have to pay for that honor. Yes. Imagine that, a Hall of Fame coach, because Tomlin will go to the Hall of Fame, guys. A coaching legend, still under contract somewhere else, but unwilling to coach. I mean, if that isn't the biggest coaching NFL plot twist of the season, I don't know what is. Mike Tomlin, man, that was quite the thing. Quite the thing. Next, we have John Harbaugh, who was one of the most respected coaches of the modern era. And after 18 seasons in Baltimore and a Super Bowl championship also under his belt, Harbaugh was let go. And so here's the twist there. He's not being overlooked. I mean, there are multiple teams like the Titans, Falcons, Giants they're actively trying to interview him right now as we move forward for their head coach openings. And you can't blame him because he brings playoff experience, strong reputation with quarterbacks. He's a culture first type of guy. And because he just got fired, he's filling the rare role of an elite coach hitting the market with value still intact. And this is one of those rare moments where a proven leader could find all sorts of opportunities. I mean, maybe even pick the best job for his vision instead of taking the first one offered. That's the most likely scenario here, I would have to say. We've also got Mike McDaniel, who you heard me talk about earlier with Detroit. Well, they're not the only game in town. We are hearing that teams like the Baltimore Ravens are lining up interviews with McDaniel for their open head coach position. If Mike McDaniel doesn't want to play assistant coach, if he doesn't want to be an offensive coordinator, he doesn't have to be. He might get a head coaching opportunity. And he's also among the candidates for other vacancies, by the way, including the Titans, including the Browns. But with McDaniel, unlike Tomlin, I don't see him taking a break. I think he's young enough. I think he wants to continue. You've also got Brian Daboll, who nobody's really talking about. He's a guy who rode high after a breakout first season with the Giants. Then he hit a rough patch, and they were like, yep, you're out of here. Guy lost his job midseason. And if you thought that was the end of the story, well, you better think again. Because he's already receiving a head coaching interview requests as well, especially from teams like the Titans. And he's also linked to other offensive coordinator jobs with other contenders like the Eagles. And that's the thing about Daboll. He's respected for his offensive expertise and quarterback development, even if his tenure in New York didn't end up the way he hoped. And frankly, I'm not sure he should have been fired. So his future could go two different ways. I mean, he could get another head coaching opportunity, possibly with a winnable roster, or a coordinator role on a playoff contender, rebuilding his reputation, starting over. I mean, either path could lead back to a head coaching gig down the line if he thrives, which he's done before. And so I think we need to zoom out and look at the big picture because this is not your average coaching offseason at all. I mean, right now, veteran legends like Tomlin and Harbaugh are off the board, or potentially off the board, rather. And teams are realizing that experience matters. Coaches who would normally be second choices are suddenly prime candidates, like McDaniel and Daboll included. I mean, there are 8 or 9 coaching vacancies across the league, which is a staggering turnover. I just cannot continue wrapping my mind around how fast football coaches in the NFL and in the NCAA get clipped. It's incredible. So what does it all mean? It means that teams are nervous. GMs and owners are under pressure to correct course fast. They don't want to rebuild slowly. It means the traditional hierarchy of coaching pedigrees is getting disrupted, and it means opportunity for younger offensive minds and defensive coordinators alike. That's what it means. I mean, these carousels aren't just shuffling seats. It's shaking the whole foundation of how NFL leadership works. So I'm going to make some bold predictions, and we're going to see what's what. I think that Harbaugh ends up with a contender, probably one that needs stability more than bells and whistles, just given who he is. I think that Mike McDaniel either takes the job in Detroit or he gets a head coaching gig. I think either way, he ends up with a team that wants offensive creativity. I wouldn't be shocked either way. Either way that goes, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that Daboll stays employed. I think either as a head coach or a strategic offense coordinator. And I do not think that Mike Tomlin is going to coach in 2026 at all. Just given the reporting, given his comments at the presser, I think he's done. Maybe permanently. And maybe when we see him next time, maybe he'll be even on TV. And maybe he'll coach later. Who knows? But I don't think we're going to see Mike Tomlin on an NFL sideline in 2026. And that's exactly the storyline Detroit fans should be watching. Because teams like the Lions benefit when the coaching market reconfigures itself with creativity and experience. This season's coaching carousel isn't just hot gossip. It's a power shift. Legends are stepping down. Rising heads are stepping up. And everybody's figuring out which direction the league is going to face next. And as Detroit fans, we know that coaching matters almost as much as talent does, sometimes more. Buckle up, because I don't think this carousel is going to be slowing down anytime soon. But we're going to be keeping an eye on it.